just happened. I can't wait to make my profile picture, me and Gene, just back to back with that guitar. It's just life-changing. Man, hey, it's daylight savings time. You made it. You are like smarter than half the population. Congratulations, you did it. We're so glad you're here. Stand up with us. It's a great morning. And we're going to sing, we're going to clap, all right? Coming back to the start, we sing. I'm coming back to the start, where you found me. I'm coming back to your heart. I surrender, take me. This is all I can bring.
Alive.
want to thank you, God, for all the blessings that we have. We want to thank you for your grace, God, and all the things that you do for us. This morning we celebrate you and we love you so much. We give back to you our songs, our voices, and our hearts. Amen. 1, 2, 3.
And that is why we're here this morning, to sing and give celebration for all that Jesus has done for us. And we are so glad that you are here to be a part of that, whether you're in the room or watching online. We're glad you're here. So help each other feel welcome. Why don't you turn? Everybody got up an hour early this morning, so tell the person sitting next to you that they look great. And if you're watching online, so glad you're able to plug in that way. Check in, let us know where you're watching the service from, and glad you got to be part of Mountaintop this way. That was good. That was good. That was really good. Hey, I want to just extend a special welcome to you. If you are new to Mountaintop and maybe you're here for the very first time, wow, you checked out a church for the first time on Daylight Savings Time Sunday. You probably get to go straight to heaven without worrying about anything that you did that. We are really glad that you're here, and we would love to tell you a little bit more about who we are. We are a community that has a vision to be a place where we are learning and sharing a better way to live, a way of life that we believe that Jesus offers. And what you're going to hear this morning, we are so excited. Ted Lowe is our guest speaker this morning. We're going to talk about a better way to use our words. But as a church, we have a vision of being a place to learn a better way of life. We'd love to tell you more about that. And so if you are new, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment and filling out the back of the card that you received when you came in, and you can do two things with it. You can put it in an offering bucket a little bit later in the service, or take it by a place called Starting Point out here in the atrium. And there are people there who can tell you more about Mountaintop, and they have a gift for you as well. So we just want to tell you who we are and how you can be involved in the things that we are doing. How many of you watch movies? Anybody go to movies? Well, like the whole room. How about TV? Anybody else watch TV? If you go to movies or you've had the television on over the last month or so, you have probably seen a trailer for a movie that is opening later this month. But just in case you haven't, take a look at the side screens.
Going to destroy the world.
My father said that one day, if man continued in his ways, the Creator would annihilate this world.
Can it not be averted?
He speaks to you. You must trust that he speaks in a way that you can understand.
I saw water, death by water, and I saw new life. A great flood is coming. We build a vessel to survive the storm. We build an ark.
Mama, what is them?
What do you want?
You don't know your king.
There isn't anything for you here.
I have men at my back, and you stand alone and defy me.
I'm not alone.
Desperate, and there will be many.
Take the ark!
I see how hard this was for you.
Remember, Noah, he chose you for a reason.
Is this the end of everything?
Beginning. Beginning of everything.
I love that last piece that the studio added to the trailer where it says the biblical story of Noah is found in the book of Genesis. Next week, we're going to start a new message series, and we're going to be looking at the story of Noah. And one of the things that they get so right in the trailer is that the story is far more than most of us imagine. It's much more than a story about cute little animals getting on an ark and rainbows. It's actually a powerful story about sin and the consequences of it and God's judgment and God's plan for restoration and redemption following that. And what I'm convinced of is that in Noah's story, we can each find our story. And so we're going to spend 4 weeks looking at the real story of Noah as it's found in the book of Genesis. And when the movie first started kind of showing trailers for it, a lot of people, and some of you may have seen this, a lot of people in the Christian community got real upset by that. And they kept saying, well, Hollywood's not telling the story right. Of course they're not. That's not their job. That's actually our job. I think it's going to be a real entertaining movie. They spent $145 million on it, so the special effects ought to be spectacular. I think Russell Crowe's a fabulous actor. He always looks like Gladiator to me, although I actually liked him in Les Mis, and like nobody liked him in Les Mis but me. But it's going to be, the movie is getting a lot of press. There's going to be a lot of people going to see it. A lot of your friends are going to see it. And what we want to do over the next 4 weeks is make sure you know the real story. Because it really is more than we sometimes imagine. And so we want to kind of dig in. Why did God really destroy the world? What does it look like to be obedient to Him? How does God protect us in the midst of the storms that we face, even in the midst of His judgment? What does the rainbow really promise? We're going to dig into all of that over the next 4 weeks. Here's what we think would be a great thing for you to do, is to invite your friends to come be a part of this series before the movie comes out, so that they'll know the real story too. And so we have created these invitation cards, and you probably saw them as you were coming in this morning. Here's what I invite you to do. Pick up 4 or 5 of these. They fit in your coat pocket, shirt pocket. Put them in the visor of your car, carry them around in your purse, whatever you do. And if you're talking about the movie with someone, invite them to come to Mountaintop. Say, well, you know what the story really is, more than you imagined. And I'd love for you to come and get to hear the real story of Noah. And so please take a handful of these as you leave this morning. We'll kick off the series next week, and next week we're going to talk about why God really destroyed the world, and it'd be a great way to begin the series. Invite your friends to come be a part of it. This is how we fulfill our vision of sharing what we are learning, by making invitations. So these cards are to help you do that. Noah spent, when you read through the Genesis account, Noah spent 1 year and 10 days in the ark with his wife and with his kids and with his in-laws. And my guess is when Noah got out of the ark, what he needed more than anything else was a men's retreat. And so the good news is we've got a men's retreat coming up in just a couple of months. In April 25th and 26th, our men are retreating. It's going to be a real how-to retreat. We're going to talk about how to be better men, part of our vision of living a better life. We want to be better men, and there'll be some powerful testimonies from some men here at Mountaintop. But guys are handing out this card this morning, and you may have received one already or get one after the service. We'll keep talking about this in coming weeks. You can sign up at guest services. You can sign up online. Grab one of these cards. It's going to be a great retreat. It was just what Noah would have needed. It might be just what you need as we look to be men and being men that God created us to be. Our ushers are going to come forward now, and this is the chance for us to give back to God. Know that the gifts that you give back, they are invested in ministries that are helping us learn Noah's story and to teach that, and ministries that are helping us become better men and women and parents and marriages, and everything that you give is being invested to help us tell God's story and to help share His love here on the mountain and as we get off the mountain. And so as our ushers come forward, this is our chance to give back to God. Give with expectation that God's going to take these gifts and bless them and use them to advance His kingdom. And so let's continue to worship Him as we get back this morning.
My stupid mouth has got me in trouble. I said too much again. To a date over dinner yesterday, I could see she was offended. She said, well, anyway, I'm just dying for a subject change. It's another social casualty. So one more for me. How can I forget? Mama said, think before speaking. Don't feel turn my head. Oh, what's more to do? I guess you better find one soon. Out the window, rolling tiny balls of napkin paper. I played a good game of chess with a salt and pepper shaker. I could see clearly an indelible line was drawn between what was right, what just left out, and what went wrong. Oh, the way she feels about these chains. Thanks for playing the track. Think before speaking, don't feel turn my head. Oh, what's more to do? I guess you better find one. Never speaking again, it only hurts me. I'd rather be a mystery than she deserves. Starting now. Starting now. One more thing. Why is it my fault? So maybe I tried too hard. But it's all because of this desire. I just wanna be alive. Just wanna be funny. Looks like the joke's on me. So call me Captain Backfire. I'm never speaking again. It only hurts me. I'd rather be a mystery than she deserves me. Oh, I'm never speaking up again. I'm never speaking up again. I'm never speaking up again. Starting now. Starting now.
I first met Ted Lowe 14 years ago, and I met him at a church I worked at in northern Atlanta. And Ted came on staff to develop a new ministry at this church I worked at. And his heartbeat was for married couples because he saw all the struggles that a lot of marriages are walking through. And he developed this ministry. Well, 4 years ago, Ted and his wife Nancy decided to take this ministry outside this local church and share it nationwide and worldwide with churches and with Christians and helping marriages. And so he started a new ministry called Married People, and the purpose of their ministry is this: helping churches, helping marriages. Helping churches, helping marriages. Ted is married to Nancy. They have 3 children. They live in Cumming, Georgia. He's one of the most creative, and here's a key thing for Ted, transparent. And you're going to pick up on that when he communicates here. And it's very refreshing because many people aren't too transparent. He'll be at our event this evening, our Oh What a Night event for married couples here in the atrium at 6:30. So you'll be seeing him. If you're going to the event, raise your hand real high. Awesome. You'll be seeing more of him. Hey, let's give a warm mountaintop welcome to Ted Lowe.
Buddy. Somebody. Good. Thanks, Shay. Thank you. You gotta love a church that's not afraid to have Krispy Kremes and crazy dancers. I love it. I absolutely love it. And just so you know, I'm from Alabama, and I know for those of you that live in Alabama, we don't trust people that aren't from Alabama, right? People that don't understand the whole Roll Tide War Eagle thing. What's not to understand, right? Right? You know, we know our children say Mama, Daddy, and then either Roll Tide or War Eagle, Right. It's not that difficult to understand. So just so you know, you can trust me because I'm from here. Anyway, with that being said, there is a period of my life where the song My Stupid Mouth should have been playing in the background at all times. It's called my first 2 years of marriage. My mom passed away when I was 10, and it left my brother and my dad and I just to our own devices. You know, we were like bears with furniture. You know what I'm saying? And I remember just the housekeeper would come a couple times a week, and she'd walk in the door, and you hear the door open, and you'd hear her go, "Oh, Lord," because it would just be bad. And so I communicated kind of like a bear. And so when I got married, my wife let me know really quickly that she wasn't a bear and didn't want to be talked to one. But I was a slow learner. But one morning I started to learn really quickly is we were living in Southern California, and we had a little tiny 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. And I was shaving one morning in the only mirror we have, and she walked in, and she does that thing that only women do to mirrors, where they back themselves up to them, and they spin their heads around at 180 degrees and check out the backs of themselves. Never in the history of mankind is a man ever going, well, like that. I've since learned, I call it the owl. I've since learned that the owl has a question that seems to be designed to get me killed. Men, can I get a hallelujah in the house? Here was her question of the day. The question of the day was, do you think these pants are too tight? Well, I was young and stupid. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be honest. And I said these 3 words right here. Yeah, kind of. Can you hear the train a-coming? Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. And I kept trying to dig my way out of it, and I got deeper and deeper and deeper. It was really bad. It was really bad. Yeah, kind of led to a lot of tears. In fact, she almost cried at one point. It was bad. And I started to learn then what I know for certain now that I've been married 19 years. I've been working with married couples since 2001. Here's what I know for a fact. It only takes a few words to take our relationship in directions that we do not want them to go. Especially our close relationships. And it's not just marriage. It's all our close relationships, whether that's with our kids, our siblings, our parents, our roommates, our people that work for us, or we work for, our coworkers. You know, it only takes a few words, and all of a sudden your relationship's going in this direction that you don't want it to go. It just takes a few words. Things like this. Shh, I'm working. I work from home. How many of you work from home? Some. Yeah, it's kind of weird. We're starting to do that more and more as a culture, and it's hard for our kids to distinguish, you know, when we're home and when we're not. And I'd always worked away from home until the last 4 years, and my daughter, she likes to visit. And I have the bulletin board that's just got things for her. Does that make sense? So she comes in, and there's been a couple times there are projects coming up, and I'm kind of stressed out about it. And a couple times I'm like, shh, I'm working. And I get to watch her little face. And I just think, wow, it only takes 3 words from me to hurt my daughter. It only takes a few words. Here's another one. You're not wearing that, are you? That never goes well, does it? We keep going after it, though, don't we? Here's the mantra of my 14-year-old. I'm just saying. I don't know what that even means. I must be getting old. But if I'll get on to him for saying something inappropriate to his mom, or, you know, just brother and sisters, I'll say, buddy, you shouldn't say that X, Y, Z. And he'll say, well, I'm just saying. As if in that moment I'm supposed to go, oh, that was completely inappropriate, but since you were just saying, go ahead. Say whatever you want, as long as you put it at the end, I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't get that. For some reason, that does not do good things with my relationship with my boy. But I started to learn really with my kids early on that it only takes a few words. When they were younger, when we would have spend-the-night guests, we would put our boys, they had separate rooms, we'd put them in the same room together. And we had friends over, and we'd put them in the same room, and they're just doing that thing that kids do that don't usually sleep in the same room. How many of you have kids? You know what I'm talking about. You get them in there, and it's up and down, and they needed blankets and water. And at one point, I came back up, and they're like, turn the lights on in the closet. We're scared. And I turned it on, and one of them said, turn it on like Mommy. I'm like, what does that look like? You know, I don't even know. And I'm trying to do, and I tell them, I bust out a little old school parent. I tell them, I go, don't make me come up here again. Ooh, what does that mean? So I went back downstairs for what? I'm there 5 minutes. I go back up those stairs, and I start busting out some old school parenting. all the books on marriage and family and parenting is going out the windows. I'm coming out there, and I go in there, and I'm just like, "Roar, you got to knock it off. You better stop this." And I'm going on, and my oldest son goes, "Daddy," I said, "What?" And he goes, "You're really hurting my feelings." And right before he says that, I just had said these 3 words: go to sleep. Go to sleep. How did I turn into Godzilla putting my boys to bed? Now, I'm not saying, parents, that we can't talk stern, that we can't be forceful with our kids. I'm just saying. I wish I'd have planned that, but that really just came out of my mouth. I'm not that smart. I'm just saying it only takes a few words to take our relationships, the things that are so important to us, in a direction that we don't want to go. And here's what we all know to be true. This is what puts us all on the same page. We know that whoever came up with the phrase, "Sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me," is, to use the biblical term, a moron. We just know that's not true. I don't know who came up with that. I think that's like the phrase of denial. We just know that it's not true, right? But you're going, wait a minute, we didn't get an extra hour early to talk about something this obvious. Here's what I want us to wrestle with just for a second. It's this dynamic. We all know words can hurt. But if I were to ask you, hey, do you want to speak words that hurt the people you love the most or that are important in your world? What would you say? No, not a chance. And if I were to say, do you want to say words that are life-giving and healing to the people around you that you love the most? What would you say? Yes. Then why is it that all of us, me included, we find ourselves not saying the things we want to and then saying the things that we swore we'd never say again? What's that dynamic going on here? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Now, here's the thing I love about the Bible. And when people say it's outdated or irrelevant, it just almost makes me laugh, because the Bible is so relevant, because times have changed, but people haven't. The core of people haven't. And I want to walk through one short verse that I think unpacks in one short verse not only what's going on, while we're not saying the things that we want to, and we are saying the things we don't, and how can we do something different. From Proverbs 12:18. Here's the first part of this thing. Careless words, watch this, stab like a sword. Now, you think about it. This is thousands of years old. Solomon wrote this, and it's thousands of years old. And how relevant is that? That careless words in your life stab like a sword. I mentioned earlier that my mom passed away when I was 10. A couple weeks after she had passed away, I was at my uncle's house, and I'd made this big mess. And he comes in, he's very frustrated about this big mess, and he gets on to me and I'm upset, and I run out of the house. He chases after me. He catches me. He grabs me by the arms. He shakes me. He looks me square in the eye and says, "Just because your mom died doesn't mean you can cry about every little thing." Now, I got to tell you, in that moment, that was a stabbing for me. And here's the thing. I don't remember that year, what I got for my birthday. I don't remember if we went on vacation. I don't remember what little league team I was playing on. But I remember everything about that day, because that day was a stabbing. Watch this. That day was an event. And we remember events, especially hurtful ones. I mean, parents, isn't it the thing? You serve your kids all the time. You're a taxi driver. You take them everywhere. You do everything. You bleed every decision. You talk about how we're going to handle these situations they get in. And what do? They remember the one thing you said when you were frustrated. Why? Because unfortunately, this is kind of how we're wired, that when words are careless, it stabs like a sword. And that's an event. Then things start to make sense, because if any of us were in this room were to be, God forbid, stabbed, would we ever forget it? No. And the same thing is true with our words. Is that careless words stab like a sword. But here's the second part of this. The great thing about this whole thing is there's not a period here, there's a comma. Careless words stab like a sword, but wise words lead to healing. So think about God's economy on this. The very thing that wounds people, words, is the very thing that God wants to use to heal people, words. Think of his economy. You think about it. If you get cut, our hands, it'll heal back. That's amazing that God created us like that. But to me, this is even more amazing, that the wounded things from us and the wounded of the people that have been wounded around us. What do they need from us? They need wise words. Wise words lead to healing. That's amazing, but here's the catch. And here's why we find it so difficult to keep saying those things that are healing. It's an amazing process, but it's a process. And we don't like process, do we? We're the generation that created techno-stress. How many work on a computer a lot? Yeah, and if the little hourglass or the color wheel pops up for more than 2.2 seconds, we're like, I got to upgrade. We don't like process. You know, we stand by the microwave waiting on the popcorn going, come on. Do you remember Jiffy Pop? That is a popcorn process. Who came up with that? I know what let's do. Let's get children near a stove and let's let them do like this, and about 8 days in, it goes, you're like, that is a popcorn of process, but we don't like process. I was describing to my 14-year-old the other day what a record was. Some of you, I can see some of you are so young, you don't even know what a record is. So this is the first thing. What you do is you put a record on this thing and it spins, and you take this little arm, it's got a needle, and something magic happens, and you can hear it. And I'm saying that to my 14-year-old, and I think he's going to have lots of questions because that's kind of a bizarre device. And he goes, wait a minute, so you had to go to the store and buy it? Well, I have the spiritual gift of sarcasm, to which I said, no, music has always dropped magically from the sky onto the device of my choice. Yes, you had to go buy it. But we're the culture that wants things now, and we can get them now, and we can make things. And this whole idea of speaking these words, it's a process, but it's slow, and we like things to go fast. We like to fast forward through the commercials, which I really can't use that as an example because I believe the Lord created and maintains DVRs. But anyway, we'll move on from there. I wish I could give you something instant. I wish I could give you a phrase today and say, since you came to church today an hour earlier, I'm going to give you this one phrase, and you can speak this one phrase, and it will heal their soul. You'd go home, and you'd look, or a coworker, you'd look to a friend, you'd look to a neighbor, and you'd say, I want you to know that I believe that you can fly. I believe that you can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread your wings and fly away. And they'd go, oh, all the dumb things people said growing up, all the dumb things coaches said, all the dumb things you've said, oh, it's healed my whole soul. That's ridiculous, isn't it? We know that it doesn't work that way, and I would love to give you something instant, but I can't. It is day by day, situation by situation, where we are saying the things that we need to say, and we are avoiding saying the things that we don't. Now, I want to make this super practical. How do we do this? I think the answer of how we do this is in these same exact verses. The first thing we have to concentrate on is we have to be slow. And what I mean by that is we have to slow this thing down, because here's what happens when there's a lot of research on this, that when we're angry and we're frustrated, our blood pressures go up, especially guys. Blood pressure goes up, our body's flooded with a chemical called cortisol, and that's what we're saying in the passion of the moment, these things that are hurting them. We've got to learn how to be slow. Psychologists talk about times they call it halt. Times when we're hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. That's typically when we do the things that we regret doing. The number one time couples fight is when they reconnect at the end of the day. Why? Because they're one or all of those things, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And in those moments, we've got to learn how to slow this thing down. Every radio station in the country has a thing called a 7-second delay, where they have 7 seconds to stop anything offensive from going on the airways. And I am convinced, I've been working with families for a long time, I'm convinced that a marriage would have been saved, a child would grow up more whole, people would have better friends, better relationships if we had this 7-second delay. How many wish you had that device? You say it and you're like, ooh, I need to rewind really quick. But we don't, so here's what we do have. We've got a Heavenly Father that loves us, that forgives us, that we need to invite in those moments. And this is what I call a silent prayer, because we start praying what we're really feeling in front of them, it might not be good. God, help me to work with this jerk. I mean, that's just not going to go over good. So this is all internal stuff, but I'm serious about this. And we start inviting God into this process going, God, can you help me to be slow? Because this is saying we've got to be careful if it's careless words that stab like a sword, we got to be careful. We've got to be slow. Here's the second part of this thing. We have to be smart. We've got to be smart. And I'll say this. Notice I said be slow and not silent. Because some of you, when you get mad, you close down and you get really silent. Or some of us, the most painful words are the words that were never said. So we've got to slow and we've got to be smart. And talking specifically to woundedness, if you think about the people that God's entrusted around you, he wants to use you to speak words that are healing to their woundedness. Here's the thing. You got to know what that woundedness is. Because everybody that we're in contact with has a degree of woundedness. We got to find out where that woundedness is. And I don't know about you, but I'm always fascinated that when somebody has a loved one to get sick or get cancer, how smart they become about what's going on with them. Have you guys seen that before? We've got some dear friends right now. He's going through cancer, and this is like his second bout with it. And when his wife posts things on Facebook, or when you talk to her about her husband, she sounds like a doctor. Have you guys seen this dynamic before? People get really, really smart because there's something in them that thinks, I'm not the doctor, but I need to know about their woundedness, because if I can help them just 1% because I knew a little bit of something, if they can, maybe they don't feel so alone if they know that I know what they're going through and I'm the one that's going to champion them and I'm going to find out what their woundedness is so I can do anything possible to help that woundedness. We got to do the same thing, not just for their physical body, but who they are as a person. They have been wounded by words, and we got to get really smart about that woundedness. So how do we get smart about it? We got to start asking. For some of you in your closer relationship, you're driving home today, or at some point this week, say, hey, he shared that story. You know, he shared that story about his mom. What's that woundedness for you? Because here's the thing. Here's what I know. I've been doing this a long time. I know this, is that some of you guys in this room, you have a story like this. Maybe it's something some coach said to you about your athletic ability or lack thereof. You remember that. You remember that exact thing. Ladies, I know you have this too. I worked with students for a long time, and I was blown away how girls could remember verbatim what somebody had said about their parents. And those words were so stabbing. It was such an event that it actually altered what this girl would see in the mirror. My wife would be sitting there with these girls, and they would think, I'm fat and I'm ugly. It was trumping the reality of the mirror. And what we've got a chance to do is we get to speak into, and we get to, day by day, moment by moment, second by second, speak something else. We've got to find out, where are they wounded? Where were they hurt? My wife told me I was the first person to ever tell her she's beautiful. And if you could see her, you would be blown away. I tell people, her standing beside me, if that doesn't make you believe in Jesus, nothing will. Right? But I told her one time, and I tell her all the time, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. Man, I hear her in there in the bathroom, and she's got all the appliances going and the chemicals. And she comes out, and I'm like, oh, you just need a fog machine and some 80s music. You look amazing. And she'll go, thank you. And I'll ask her one day, I said, I tell you you're good looking a lot. I tell you you're beautiful a lot. And I go, you don't seem to, am I doing it too much? Am I killing? She goes, oh no, I love it. But here's the thing, these people around us, they may not know how to respond back with a thanks, but their insides are doing this, right? So we got to be smart. We got to figure out where their woundedness is. We've got to ask them. Now here's the thing. Here's the catch, that you can turn one of the hardest parts about your relationship into the best part of your relationship. Watch this. What is that situation that the one you love the most, that their reaction doesn't match the situation? They just kind of flip out, and you're like, and we take it personally, going, you always overact when we talk about money. My wife, her dad was a football coach, and her mom stayed at home, so they didn't have a lot of money, and there was lots of stress around money. So now money is kind of her woundedness. She kind of freaks out about her situation the way she reacts doesn't match the situation. You know, and I see that, and I think that's her woundedness. You know, and she knows for me. I mean, you know, when your mom's around, she breaks up fights between you and the older brother. Well, mom wasn't around. So my woundedness comes straight from my brother. You know, those fights that mom breaks up, they didn't get broken up at all. And he took full advantage of that. And verbally, it was even worse. There's a lot of woundedness there. And I feel like, you know, He told me every day, something's wrong with you. So I kind of got this thing, I feel defective. And my wife she has to speak. That's my woundedness. Those people around you, they have a degree of woundedness. And when they overreact, you just go, they've just put up a big billboard. They've just looked at you and go, right here is where my pain is. If we can be brave enough, and watch this, if we can be like Jesus enough to see it, it's relational gold. So what happens when we start saying very complicated things? This is ready. If you got a pencil, you're going to want to write this down because this is super complicated. When we start saying this, please, we kind of can forget. We can kind of forget. We say to our kids, I said something to my son the other day. He goes, Dad, can you ask me with manners? Thank you, Mr. Theologian. I get it. Please, I have a dear friend who's worked in ministry for years in clinical research with couples, and he said, people have just forgotten the basics, like being kind. But to pull these things back out, please, here's another important one. Thank you. We kind of forget this. People get really comfortable inside the walls of our own home. There should be no such thing as a thankless task. Your people you love, if they're doing tasks for you and with you and around you, it should be your goal to say, you'll never be a thankless task. In fact, I think I would love a whole movement of men that just walk into laundry rooms and walk back out simultaneously across the world and says, Mama, thank you for washing the 100,000th load of clothes. You are the mama. And just kind of go nuts. In fact, I'm pushing this campaign. Call it the Post-it note campaign. You get think of Post-its this year, and just 12 times, once a month, you just thank them for something they do. Thank you for going to this job that you really don't want to go to. Thank you for always loving me. Thank you for always driving me somewhere. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that it just becomes, we should never know thankless. And everybody we interact with in our community would get that from us. Here's another complicated one for dads and husbands. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. I tell my daughter every time, you are so beautiful. In fact, she'll look at me, she'll go, I know, I'm beautiful. But our wives want to hear it. Our daughters want to hear it. Here's something that both daughters and sons want to hear. You have what it takes, particularly guys. Every boy longs to hear daddy say it. Every employee longs to hear their boss say it. You have what it takes. That's why it's so devastating a lot of times when a husband loses his job. Because the world has just told him, you don't really have what it takes. And that's devastating. And he needs the people around him to go, you know what? This is an economy thing. This isn't a you thing because you have what it takes. They long to hear it. We have to call our boys out. We have to let them know over and over, boy, you've got what it takes. Here's another one that we toss away a lot. I love you. I don't know about you, where I'm from, you kind of like, okay, talk to you later. Bye, love you. It becomes a toss away. And sometimes we just, again, need to get big with it and say, wow, in the sea of all the activity, I love you. I am crazy about you. When our kids, we would start when they were very, very little, we'd say, do I love you when you're mean? Yes. Do I love you when you're obedient? Yes. Do I love you when you're disobedient? Yes. When do I love you? All the time. And that's what we say at our house. Huh? When do I love you? All the time. We need to have those moments where they go, I'm so glad that I get to do life with you. I love you. These are important words. For those of you that this struggles with, write a note. Because this is the thing. This is just for us words people, us talkers. This is for all of us. Somebody around you. Who is it? Because here's what I know about God. He's very specific with us. He knows everything about you. He knows everything about your week. I mean, think about this. He knows everything about the details of your home. He knows every conversation you have. As I've been speaking, who is that person that just keeps going, ugh? And I'm not trying to judge you at all. Just going, but who is that person that so needs it? A lot of times needy people are the ones that we want to be around the least, but they need us the most. Who is that needy person who doesn't know how to tell you, don't give up on me. I'm really hurting. Please don't give up on me. Who is that person? Who's that person that lives in your house that needs you to crank this up just a bit? Who is that person in your life that needs you to be slow with your words and smart with your words? And I'll close with this. I have a dear friend who is married to a woman who's very wounded. Her mother was very, very verbally abusive to her growing up. And he talks to her when you hear him talk to her, pick up the phone, it is like they're on their first date. Guys, I'll be honest with you, it's a little nauseating, if I'm being real honest. But he's so gentle with her, and he's so careful with her, and always glad to hear from her. It's just the way he handles situations. And I said to him, I said, and I've been giving this talk for a while, and I told him, I said, buddy, I said, I feel like you live this out, but she still feels pretty wounded to me. He's sitting there with a cup of coffee, and he said, when we got married, if woundedness was a cup of coffee, she was a full cup. And he said, we've been married 20 years, and she's somewhere between a quarter and a half a cup. And I thought, wow, 20 years. That's a long time. The question for you and the question for me is it worth it? And if you could see his daughters, you'd say, oh, yeah. Because what have they watched? They've watched how a husband should treat a wife. He's modeled that beautifully. And is it worth it to his wife, who grew up with woundedness, who no longer has to live with that? It's worth it. It's slow, but it's worth it. It's a process, but it's worth it. Who needs you to be slow, and who needs you to be smart? Let me pray for you. God, I thank you for this church that values your word, that values words, that wants to change a community, that wants Sunday to affect Monday. Thank you for their heart. Thank you for their passion. Thank you for their intentionality to be really excellent at what they do, to reach people, to make things applicable, to make things work. We thank you for that. And God, I think for the men and women in this room that on this beautiful day where they could be doing anything else, they thought, we need to pause our life and focus and think about, what does God want us to do? What area of my life is he wanting to change and be a part of? Or even, God, if they get drug here today, they don't even want to be here, but God, you love them and you're glad that they're here and you want to change their lives too. I just pray that tomorrow would be different. This afternoon would be different as a result of your word. And you tell us that we've got to be slow and we've got to be smart. I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Hey, let's thank Ted for being with us. Thank you so much, man. I was sitting over there, and this is the second time I've heard the message. And I'm thinking, I know he's speaking to other people because he's so speaking to me. And so I just want to encourage you, will you just do something about it? I know I want to do something about it. And some steps you may want to take, you may want to walk over here to this corner where some people just want to pray for you. You just may need some prayers. Or maybe you just need to learn more about Jesus and you might want to give your life to Jesus, and they'd love to talk to you about that, what that looks like. Also, if you're a guest, like Doug mentioned earlier, you can go to our area over here called Starting Point and get a gift from us. Just say thanks for coming. If you have any questions about our church, just go over and ask them. Or we have an iServe booth. If you're thinking about jumping in our church and serving, we'd love to have you go there too. But my encouragement is do something about this talk with your husband, with your wife, with your children, with a coworker, with a roommate. Somebody, do something about this. Because today's a new day. They don't have to stay the same. We'd like to end our service with a song. You guys want to stand up and sing another song here? Let's get to our feet. Philip, you guys ready? Let's do it.
To
We hope you have a blessed week. You are, just go enjoy the wonderful day. We'll see you back tonight or next week. 1, 2.
Online for our services. It's great to have Ted with us. Ted, do you have any final words for us?
Yeah, they're smart. I just think, who is that person that God's laid on your heart that you need to be slow and you need to be smart?
That's good. Ben, thanks for hosting us this morning. You guys have a great week.
Absolutely.
Take care.
To you.